Say, kids. PDR tool time.
Hey, what's happening, everybody? It's your host, John Highley, with another episode of PDR Tool Time. And this is our 50th episode. It's a little bit of a special episode here. Actually, a lot of a special episode because we do have Business Coach Tom Rubens, and this is going to be a duo podcast between me and Tom here.
Hey, John. I guess I should say happy 50th birthday.
50th birthday we've had here. 50 episodes and tons of downloads. Love it. So all you guys...
Lots to be proud of, man.
Yeah, lots to be proud of here. And, one of the cool things that me and Tom are going to be talking about here is that today, right now, you can go over to your iTunes or your Stitcher, and you can check out myself and Tom, our new podcast, which is John and Tom 360. All right. So we talk about true wealth, true health, and true life. So you want to tell them a little bit about that, Tom?
Well, I'm kind of excited because for those of you who can actually see this podcast, or if you go to our website, which is johnandtom360.com, if you don't know what my handsome partner looks like, we look a lot different. We show up a lot differently in our daily lives, yet you won't find two people who are more aligned both spiritually in terms of our beliefs about entrepreneurship, hard work, and what it takes to be successful. And our show, John and Tom 360, is all about those subjects. It's all about taking wherever you are on the business cycle, on your journey, on your entrepreneurial journey. We've got... You're going to find a home with us because we're here to talk about just that sort of stuff. And you guys here on this show have been doing it for 50 episodes now. And I think what you have is a great gift to your community. And I know you and I both think we'll have an equally great gift for an even larger community.
Well, and that's the thing, Tom. What inspired me to begin looking into this type of podcast, another business podcast, because number one, I knew I could only do so much on PDR Tool Time, right? And, if anybody who knows me, they know that I eat, breathe, sleep, and wake up as an entrepreneur. I mean, I'm imagining stuff all the time. I'm reading stuff all the time. And, it's just, it's really cool when you get a couple entrepreneurs together like myself and Tom, and we really start to dig deep into our studies and what's been going on that week. It's like there's always something new happening, something developing, and we are bringing it to you on a weekly basis on John and Tom 360. Now, this is going to be dropping on today. So we decided to drop it the same day that this podcast launched because we don't want you to get too far away. We want you to, you're listening to this podcast right here. You guys who are driving around your truck or working in your shop or finishing up a hail gig, you can just scroll right on over and punch in John and Tom 360, and you can pick right up where this podcast is going to leave off. And this is just going to fuel my passion to build other people up. I mean, that's ideally what I love.
Well, here's the deal, John. Not only do you do, I know what you do in your shop, but hats off to this show and all the hosts of this show, because you bring it for this community every episode. And I mean, I honor that. I think as business owners, we all think, or many times, people will start in business and you can say to them a question like, well, so who's your ideal customer? Who are you trying to reach? And they'll say, well, everybody. Okay, everybody drives a car, or everybody needs this. And that may or may not be true, but unless you're Procter & Gamble, you're not serving everybody. You gotta narrow it down to who your audience is. And that's what you guys have done on this show, is done a great job of serving your niche, which is terrific. I mean, because if people want this information, they know where to go. If they want to talk about painless dent removal, they know exactly where to go. If they want to learn about it, they know exactly where to go. And they also know that when they come here, they're going to get treated right. They're going to get lots of knowledge dropped on them every week, and they're going to leave fulfilled. And they've got you got a backlog of information for them. We're taking on the show, we're going to be taking a slightly larger view. And by that, I mean, wherever you are on the entrepreneurial journey, we're going to have something for you. Not every week. Every week isn't going to be about a specific topic maybe that you're working on right now, but every week is about that entrepreneurial journey. And I don't think you can ever have too much knowledge about entrepreneurship if this is what you want to do with your life, if this is how you want to make a living.
Yo, you know, that's really cool that you picked up on that, how you talked about how we picked a specific demographic and a niche, and we're serving our demographic, and we know the individuals who are watching this show. And it's good because, you know, it's funny because a lot of this all came up a long time ago with all of us dent guys on the forums. You know, I can remember the days of surfing around doording.com and meeting all of these different, literally, we were on doording.com and meeting each other. And to see what everybody has done in this industry and how not only us, but many others have worked together to, in my opinion, turn some folks that were more like blue-collar workers into real deal businessmen and women out there is phenomenal, because that can only help to serve our industry and take us to a higher level. So I'm looking to step outside that box even a little bit further, you know? I'm looking to it's just amazing when me and Tom get together and you take his wealth of experience, years of experience opening businesses, sports, whether it's sports franchises or commodity businesses or, you know, whatever else Tom was in. He's been an entrepreneur his entire life. And we're going to combine that with my experience on the internet and building a subscription company that's been very successful, and a lot of my marketing, targeting, technology, and stuff like that. We're going to mince that together into a package that's going to deliver, in my opinion, an impact that you're not going to see just anywhere. It's a very unique combination, and you got Mr. Tattooed from head to toe, and the only ink Tom has on him is that ink pen in his pocket. And right there it is.
And here's the deal, you know, I don't have the dates, John, but I know we're gonna be in Florida in was it the 16th, 17th, and 18th or something like that?
Yeah. Everybody knows about that. We've been preaching that for a little while. It's at the Mobile Tech Expo.
Yeah. So at the Mobile Tech, I hope we'll have a chance to meet a lot of you at the Mobile Tech Expo. I mean, I know he's a rock star. You won't. I'll just sort of blend into the furniture, but it'll be, if you see him and he's like, and there's like a line around the block, and then there's just some older guy sitting next to him, looks like he's got nothing to do. That'll be me. And you can come on up and say hi. You know, well, I'd love to meet you and love to talk to you about it, about your business, about what you're doing right now, and what both this show and what our show can do to help you.
You know, and that's one of the things, Tom, that I think we need to address here is that we're also going to have a segment called Ask John and Tom, where you're going to be able to submit a question at johnandtom360.com. You're going to be able to, in a sense, give us what you need. I mean, you know what we want to talk about. We wake up every day, we're reading a different book and things like that, but what we want to talk about is kind of irrelevant when we're trying to serve a audience out there that's listening to our stuff. So we want to know, we want to tap into the needs of all of you folks out there, and especially all of our dent community and all the dent trainer members that are going to be able to get in on all the great stuff that me and Tom have put together, and just our whole dent community out there. We want to understand essentially what keeps you up at night. You know, I think that's the most important question. Like what keeps you up at night? You know, kind of rolling around in bed thinking, you know, what can I do about this problem and about this issue? And for me in the dent removal industry, it was the scalability of this specific style of business. Because I'm such an entrepreneur, I want to scale. But you'll commonly find, for instance, if you set up a franchise and you want it to be scalable like Starbucks, you need to be able to hire low-cost workers that can be trained to do a job very quickly, okay? That's not what this industry is. This industry is, rightfully so, higher-paid employees that have paid their dues and paid their time to become good at what they do, and it's not easy to keep training them and building a business. Like, you can't take a dent guy and have him ready to roll in, the 2-hour shift or the 5-hour shift that a Starbucks employee takes to be able to start learning the cash register. And that's what kept me up at night, was not knowing how to scale this thing without investing so much time, only to be let down by individuals that I put my heart and my soul into by quitting or leaving, things like that.
Well, and everybody's different. Your personality, John's personality, is going to be different from the next guy. And what John finds to be stressful or not particularly satisfying, somebody else is going to find that's exactly what motivates him. Maybe he or she wants to manage young people and help train them and help change their lives on a daily basis, so that maybe they can. Someone else's idea of scaling might be to open up more locations, might be to enable more entrepreneurs. It might be to franchise their particular system, because that's all franchising is a system. I mean, a burger's a burger, but it's a system it's a delivery system that is really what's franchised here. So in this case, but I know you guys talked about scaling, I think, a little bit last week on the show.
That's right. And I got some questions, Tom. Like, people actually hit me up and they said, I like what you're saying about this, but I want to know a little bit more about it. And I kind of replied a little bit and let them know that we were going to talk about it. And don't worry, we'll get something out there for you. But go ahead.
Well, so here's the deal. Scaling looks different in different industries. To use the hamburger example, if I buy my first McDonald's franchise, which, by the way, costs a gazillion dollars, but if whatever the franchise, so I have one location, whatever it is. I've got one location of a dry cleaner. Doesn't matter. I got one location and I want to grow. So scaling within that industry might look like more locations. In your industry right here, scaling can look a lot of different ways. I mean, John, 20 years ago, you had no idea you'd be teaching. You had no idea that you'd be running an educational institution.
Right.
You had no idea that people would be coming from all over the country to come and train with you. Well, that you could say, well, that's not scaling his business. That's coming up with a different department or a different division. I'm not going to quibble semantics. I'm going to tell you that's scaling your business. That's figuring out other ways for you to make money. Now, in that case, though, again, when you think of one guy, trainer, how do you scale that? Well, again, you scale it with systems. Right. So I may not be able to do what you do, John, but what I can do is learn from you and learn your systems, learn your techniques, and then I can teach other people. So again, if I had a paintless dent removal business in Louisville right now, and all I got is people coming in and I'm fixing a few cars a day, and I wanted to scale it, I got a number of options here. I could assemble a team and we could start chasing hail. I could assemble, put some students to work and begin to train them at a very, affordable rate for me, but at a good deal for them so that they can learn a trade and effectively have low-cost employees. I can start doing other stuff. I don't care what it is. Scaling your business, because once you get to a point, you start the business. We open the door the first day. You got your cool new logo, and you got all your stuff, all your tools are just ready to go. They're shiny and new, and they're ready to work. And you got your website up, everything's cool. You got your uniform on, and you're ready to go. Fine, that's great. Now, eventually, your goal is to actually make enough money so that you can survive. You do that, and you'll reach a point where, okay, I'm doing this. Now what? Because I got this part down. You'll either get a little bored or you take it for granted, and either you fall asleep at the wheel or you look to scale. You look to do something different.
That's absolutely what tends to happen to most folks out there. Now, there are other examples of people that I have worked with in the past who, in a sense, were retired. So I've actually trained a few people that had no goal to scale the business. In fact, they just wanted to keep their nest egg put back to where they could make a certain amount of income until a certain year, and then they could just kiss it goodbye and, go off and whatever, sit on a beach for the rest of their life, And I've definitely worked with a few of them. One of the most interesting ones was a guy who I trained from Canada, Gary. In fact, he owned a giant excavating company to where I think they had 70 employees, and they were literally laying pipeline throughout all of Canada. I mean, they would just lay these giant pipes, and he ended up, him and his partners got together, and they said, well, let's sell. Well, they went to go ahead and sell the business, and the companies that came in to acquire them or to buy out that business would essentially, they were offering them the same amount that their equipment was worth. So the business wasn't showing a whole lot of money because they were invested in the equipment. Turns out they got, I want to say they had $10 million worth of equipment or something like that. So big old trucks, earth movers, stuff like that, right? So these companies are coming in, they got $10 million worth of equipment, and they're coming in and saying, hey, we'll give you $10 million and you get to run the thing for 3 more years. Oh, well, that sounds like a good deal, right? So no, they ended up, believe it or not, just liquidated their company and sold the equipment. Divided up the cash. So I want to say he probably had 2 or 3 partners. So whatever, tossed $3 million back, $1.5 million after taxes, whatever. And he just wanted to have something to do, work 4 days a week to keep his nest egg back and, be able to retire. I've actually trained several people that had that as their goal in paintless dent removal. And there's other people that, gosh, man, it's all about happiness. If you're not an entrepreneur, but you just want to go to work for yourself, if you just want to not have that boss down the back of your neck, you want to go out on a daily basis, get paid good, make good money, and go home and relax. Do like before I became super entrepreneur, I was bit by that entrepreneur bug. I used to only work 4 days a week.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I can't imagine. What did you do the other 3 days? Because you've got so much going on up here. What did you do the other 3 days?
Well, my son was young enough where we took him like everywhere. Like I spent the weekends taking him down to the Cincinnati Zoo, and we just he wasn't in school yet, so I spent a lot of time at an early age taking him everywhere that you could possibly imagine. But at that time, my business model was set up where I worked 4 days a week, and I worked 10 hours or something like that for 4 days a week. It was either Monday through Thursday, or it was Tuesday through Friday, depending on if I want to take a Monday off or a Friday off. And I was mobile at that time, okay? What changed all that for me, Tom, is here in Dayton, Ohio, the hailstorm of 2011, I ended up, as soon as that hit, that was when I got my first location, and it's been balls to the wall, man. Balls to the wall ever since.
Now, is that the location you're in now?
No, actually, at that time, we rented Dayton Wire Wheel Company, half of their factory, which, if you've ever been back there, Tom's actually local here. So if you've ever been back there, it was literally about the size of a football field. And
right, because you needed to store a lot of cars because of the hailstorm.
That was the very first time that I figured out scalability, guys. So I was actually thrown into the fire. It was like literally make it happen. And like that hailstorm was so big here in Dayton, the day after, the 3 body shops that I teamed up with, literally you couldn't fit another car in their parking lot the next day. The whole parking lot was packed with cars and had cars down the road. Like people were waiting the next day for the body shop owners to come in, and it went on like that for about 6 months solid of that many customers and that many estimates. And then it just kept going and kept going. We ended up working that storm for about 2 years. And
okay, so I got to cut you off there because there are so many lessons in that story. I don't know where to start, but I think the place for me to start with is this. People talk about overnight success. And so if day one is the day that storm hit, and now all of a sudden there's opportunity everywhere. If you just had a couple of tools, you were set to make a lot of money for the next couple of years. Okay, but here's the deal. Because you're an artist at what you do, and because you take the business part of it seriously, you were mega ready for something like that. It wasn't like you'd been thinking about it. It wasn't like I'm going to plan for a humongous hailstorm. No, you didn't. But you were ready to take action as soon as that happened. And you didn't hesitate. So many of us, will get that great opportunity, but think, oh, geez, I don't know. I'm thinking of somebody that I know, one of your clients, where he said, well, I don't know if I'm ready yet. I don't know if I'm good enough for that yet. I guess the answer to that is bullshit. You're ready, man. Just jump in there and do it. And you know what? Everyone isn't going to be perfect. And you're going to spend 2 hours on a 15-minute job. And you're not going to get paid what you thought you should get paid originally. And you're going to underbid and you're going to screw things up. But man, you're going to get an education under fire. And you'll catch up to somebody with John's skills in a fairly short period of time. It's about taking the opportunity when it shows up and being ready for that opportunity. So because you and I talk about this often, about people who see a success.
Hello? It looks like Tom cut out on us here a little bit. Tom, are you with me?
Go on. Oh, whoa. It just says my internet connection is unstable. Am I back?
Yeah. Hey, I think you're back. Yeah, I think you're back. You're good.
So I think if I have an idea of where we left off. So here's the deal. People look at successful people, and what they see is that successful person right now. What they don't see is all the work it took to get there. And you pick, I don't, LeBron James didn't get to be LeBron James overnight. He worked it for years before you ever heard of him.
You want to hear something funny, Tom, about that?
Yeah.
During that hailstorm, right, is when I made the $2,000 investment to buy my Canon XA10 video camera. And now, listen, I remember walking in there and showing it to all the guys. And the guys looked at me and said, "What are you going to do with that?" I said, "Man, I'm going to film myself doing some dent removals and I'll probably do some tutorials or something like that." And they all kind of like smirked, you know what I mean? And, because at the time I was green to it. I didn't know what I was doing with that video camera. I mean, I knew a little bit. I've been friends with Mike for a long time, and he's hitting me up in my ear a little bit. But what people don't realize is before that, Mike did most of my marketing. So Mike was the one making my videos. He was the one doing all that stuff. And in that storm in 2011, I bought my first camera, which led to denttrainer.com today.
See, again, taking advantage of an opportunity, not being afraid to look bad. And look, your first videos, I'm sure, weren't stellar.
Oh, God.
My guess is some of them are still up because, hey, that's the deal. First of all, it's not about being a movie star. It's about showing what you do. And now I know your lighting is better and your skills are better, but you started. You said this is an opportunity. And by the way, everyone else in the room, when you show up with your $2,000 camera, which now isn't half as good as your iPhone, but so you show up with your $2,000 camera in 2000, they're thinking, man, this guy's nuts. I'm just here to fix some dents. Again, they all had the opportunity, but they didn't all take it. Some of them, this is all they can see is what's right in front of them. And other people, like John, are looking at, he sees the horizon. And that's the difference between success and just muddling along. But so here's the deal. So people see a successful guy like you, and they think, well, geez, they might think a couple. One, there's the person that's going to say, I could never do that. He's amazing. He's got all this stuff. He's got all. Then there are others that are going to say, well, yeah, I mean, he makes it so easy. It was easy for him, okay, because he had this, that, or the other. Well, it's going to be harder for me because blah, blah, blah.
Well, typically that's the thing. I mean, usually it's not the individual's fault. You know what I mean? It's not that individual's fault. It's just that they haven't been educated to a point, or they haven't learned the right things. They haven't gathered the right input. You know what I mean? Because I remember a time in life where, there's no way that I could have been successful because I hadn't picked up my first Stephen Covey book and began to read it. I had never even known that this type of thinking even existed. And it's hard to go back and look back before we start thinking positive and become entrepreneurs and motivated. But if you go back and look at it, there's such a lack of education out there that, I mean, I'm telling you guys, if you all are feeling down and depressed, you don't know where to go, there is so many resources out there that you can begin picking up a book today and start filling your mind, start changing them thought patterns, start changing the input. Because if you change the input, you're going to start changing the output, okay? I mean, that's the key. What goes in eventually is going to come out. You know what I mean? But it's got to come in first. and you
Yeah.
gotta be willing to make some major changes. I mean, you got to be willing to kind of throw away everything that you once thought about yourself or who you were supposed to be, or essentially throw away your ego. You know what I mean? You got to throw your ego out the door, and you got to begin rewiring your mind to become the person that you were meant to be.
What you said is just so important, which is, to some extent, we forget once we've had some success in our field, we tend to forget how we got that knowledge. And your point, John, is so perfect. I know some of you people are out there listening right now, and you're thinking, well, it couldn't happen to me. It's only because you haven't either studied enough, read enough, or maybe you just don't think enough of yourself yet to be able to visualize yourself in that position of success. So when you say, John, and I think it was very well said, it's not your fault. This isn't about judging or blaming. This is about, okay, look, here's where I am today. And I'm right here, but where I want to be is right here. What do I have to do to get there? And that's what shows like this right here that you're listening to right now are all about, getting you to close that gap.
You're already on the first step.
Absolutely. Because you continue to listen to this show every week, and John and Mike, and you're going to hear exactly how they did it. And that's how we all learn. I mean, no one came out of the womb knowing all this stuff. Come on. You have to learn. And to me, of course, I got a little bit of bias here because I'm a business coach, but if you are growing if you are at a place wherever you are on the business continuum, if you're not working with someone right now who's challenging you to get the best out of yourself and your team, I encourage you to take a look at that, because that's where that is now you get to close the gap, and then then you're going to change your goals, and you got another gap to close. And man, that's what scaling looks like.
Yeah, exactly, Tom. And, just talking a little bit about that gap that we talk about here, it's very interesting because we don't want to get, we don't want to view it like it can be fully closed, right? Because, in fact, I was just recently listening to Smart Passive Income. Pat Flynn had this guy on there.
Great show.
You look around, he's, I can't remember the guy's name, but he's the, the expert, worldwide expert on, living a fulfilling life, pretty much being fulfilled, okay? So I can't remember the guy's name, but I'm just going to give you a quick example. This guy has actually interviewed people that are billionaires, and literally these guys have never felt like they've 100% been on their game, like full on, like 100%, okay? They've never been 100%, like they don't feel like they've reached their potential 100%, okay? Nobody ever does, okay? All we can do is know the potential that we have inside us and try to close the gap every day. I mean, that gap is never going to be fully closed.
Yep.
You're never going to be 100% perfect and make every move perfect, because, look, human beings out here, man, we have massive potential. I mean, we have so much potential inside of us that we can never fulfill it all 100%. What was it, like Albert Einstein? What is it? We use like 10% of our brain, or 13% or something like that?
I don't care how much of it you're using. Here's the deal. When because you talk, as you think you've closed the gap, let's just say, for the sake of discussion, this is where this is exactly where you wanted to go. And it's immovable. This is where you wanted to go. And now you're there. I guarantee that if you had what it took to get from here to there, you are not done. You just, what? All you're going to do, you're moving the bar. And there's going to be another gap, because you're going to yearn for that gap. That gap actually is what you need. It's your energy. It's what you need to survive. You must have a gap. You will create one if it doesn't exist, if you're an entrepreneur.
Well, that's it, because all the action is in the hunt. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I mean, once you catch the wildebeest, you eat, you get fat, and you lay there, and then eventually you get hungry again, and you go back out on your hunt. I mean, I want to say a lot of this stuff has been wired into us from, back in the hunter gathering days. I mean, you think about that, okay? So the men used to go out and they would hunt, okay? So the best hunter would come back and, be carrying the, whatever it just killed on his shoulders, right? Carrying it into the village. The village would be clapping, brought us food. And next thing you know, I mean, he's got the women, and now he's got the woman, he's got all the kids. And now that he's got all the kids, he's got all the land. I mean, that all came from the desire to go out and hunt, but the action and everything was in that hunt, okay? So that's why for an entrepreneur, it's like that hunt never ends. Who was I was just talking to a guy, gosh, who was it just recently? He ended up taking about a year off, okay? Like he figured like he was going to go and just kind of lounge around on the beach and relax and just take time off. Well, he said within about 6 months, I mean, he was about to go crazy. He said he just couldn't take it anymore. He felt like there was no purpose any longer. You know what I mean? Like we all think that would be great just to walk out to our mailbox and grab a check and then, walk inside, watch TV, play video games, check around on Facebook, go eat whatever we want, drive whatever cars we want. But the truth of the matter is, if you're just getting mailbox money, there's no purpose to that. And eventually, you may like the material things, but your soul is what's going to be deprived. It's not going to be your belly. It's not going to be the home you live in, the cars that you have. It's going to be your soul that's eventually deprived, and you got to go back out and get on that hunt.
Yeah, and maybe you think you're the one that is so shallow that the money is all you need, and you're gonna be satisfied. Let's say that's true. I guarantee you that for most of us who live and breathe this, it's just not the case. John could spend, I don't care how many cars you had and how many, because I know you love cars. So I don't care how many, if you could be buying a car a week, and I could be out playing all the golf I want. I guarantee you we'd be talking at night and dreaming up different ways to start businesses, different ways. The origin might be, I got this great business idea. I think we could do A, B, and C. We may find somebody else to actually do the legwork. Mm-hmm. I may still continue to play golf and you may still continue to go out and buy cars. But the deal is that energy, that desire to continually create just doesn't leave you when you make some money. I mean, in fact, if anything, you feed it more. There's so much joy in that process.
Well, I'll tell you what, I hope we're kicking everybody's new year off here good, because, I mean, I think everybody needs that initial boost at the beginning of the year, right?
Amen,
and everything's renewed, you know what I mean? But here's what I always say, like everybody has this New Year's resolution. I swear that about every 2 weeks, I have this resolution that comes over me. Like every 2 weeks, at some point, I feel like I'm this new man in one day. You know what I mean? I don't know. It's just my earthly cycle that I'm like, you know what? I'm like, tomorrow, I'm changing things, And it happens about every 2 weeks. Sometimes it happens as soon as like every week, sometimes a couple days in a row. It's just something that's inside of me, and I encourage everybody to always be thinking about how to reinvent yourself. You know what I mean? Bringing yourself back to your purpose, bringing yourself back to your goal. Because if you think even, somebody like me who I'm busy all the time doing this, entrepreneur stuff and stuff that I love, like denttrainer.com, which is massively scalable. And I love that. And, but I go off track. I mean, I get off track. I get, and then I got to do things to constantly essentially just be renewed day by day by day. And I encourage all you guys out there, don't let yourself get off track too far. It's just like a ship with a rudder. If you're off like 1 degree, or like what do they say, like an airplane, if it's heading to, whatever, it's heading here to California, if it's off by 1 degree, it'll end up out in the middle of the ocean. It won't even get close to its destination.
Right. So they're kind of like a pilot and a ship captain. They're constantly recalibrating. I just want to, point out for anybody who's listening or watching this, you, John, are one of the more productive humans I know. And I think, and I honor you for that. And I hope that for those of you who have been listening to this podcast, for whom this is your 50th show, perhaps, that you've had a chance to appreciate that this is a guy who isn't just a one-trick pony. I mean, he is what have we known each other for, about 3 years?
Yeah, I'd say so.
Something like that. And I have seen just stunning productivity out of you. You constantly surprise me. And you do continually move the bar. So you're never going to close the gap, because you keep increasing the gap. And oh, by the way, the more successful he is, the bigger the gap, because his goals just get so ginormous that gap is what motivates him. But here's the deal, man. I just have to say that when people look at you, like when you look at any successful person, don't get seduced by where he is now and think that, oh, I just have to learn a couple of skills that he's got and I'll be fine. Because you won't. You'll get there. You can't. I'm not saying it's impossible, but I'm telling you, there are so many different elements in play. And I just got to tell one quick story. I know we're running out of time here, but I got to tell this one story about a guy that I met through John, that was one of John's students. Students come and go, and some of them do a great job. You mentioned a couple recently who like just in a few months turned their business around. I shouldn't say turn it around. It was probably a great business before, but skyrocketed after they left here. And this is a guy's name is Steve, and Steve was here. He and I met, and he had no idea. John, correct me if I'm wrong, but he'd never fixed a dent in his life when he came here, right?
Yeah, he was a mechanic. He worked at a Honda dealer.
So never fixed a dent in his life, but he decided he wanted to change things up and wanted to do this. So he came in and worked hard, learned it, but here's what separated Steve from lots of other people that have come. Now, many of them have gone on to great success. I just don't know them, but I do know Steve. And we actually called Steve for one of, did we record that for a podcast, or was that just a conversation?
No, we didn't record it for a podcast, but I had another student that needed some motivation. So we called Steve in because Steve's been so wildly successful. We actually called him in to, tell my other student how he did it.
And here's how he did it. He didn't leave here. Again, I'm not a technician, but I'm sure he'd be the first to tell you if he was on the show right now. He didn't leave here as a polished technician. But here's how he left. I am committed to doing this. I really don't know how I'm going to do it yet, but I know I'm going to do it. And I mean, he told us stories, and someday I'm sure you'll have him on here again because he is such a great success story. But he told about how he was talking about one time he drove by a kind of like I envisioned it like an abandoned factory, but maybe it was just a 5,000 square foot industrial space with, what was there, a Ferrari and a Lamborghini outside or something. He figured, well, those guys have some nice cars. I think I ought to just go in and introduce myself. I mean, how crazy. That's kind of like you showing up with a $2,000 camera.
Well, and
he just said, I'm going to talk to these guys.
Well, here's the thing about Steve. He stopped at 80 some places in one day. So when he didn't have, the work in front of him, he never stopped planting his seed. So I'm going to call his business card his seed, okay? So here he is. Steve's a farmer, right? And Steve has this luscious ground, which is the city that he lives in, okay? And he needs to go plant his seeds everywhere possible. And he went in and handed his business card to every single person, any place that resembled, I don't care, office buildings, I mean, anywhere that Steve could possibly put his card in his hand. When he wasn't doing PDR work, he was putting his card in somebody's hand. And what happens to the farmer? Okay, the farmer puts his seed in the ground, right? The farmer doesn't even know if them seeds are even going to come up out of that ground. I mean, the farmer does it with faith, right? So the farmer puts all his seeds in his ground, does all this hard work, puts in all this hard labor with just faith that one day these seeds are going to pop up out of the ground and he's going to have to work again and have a harvest, right? Well, that's what Steve did. And Steve was a sponge, man. I mean, and it is still. I talk to him all the time. I mean, so any book that I gave Steve, anything that I put in front of him, any motivation, he just absorbed it, right? And never stopped. And I knew Steve was going to be successful the day he looked at me and he said, dude, I've been broke before and I could be broke again. He's like, I don't care because this is what I want and I'm going to have it. And as soon as I heard that from him, I shook my head and said, okay, well, he got rid of one thing, is the fear of poverty. The fear of poverty stops a lot of people from moving forward. So he X that out. So if he's able to X one of the strongest fears out of his mind that holds people back, the fear of poverty, I knew that he could move forward with his plans.
Well, he didn't only eliminate the fear of poverty. He used the fact that he had been broke to empower him.
Yeah, and he was kind of saying, he's like, it wasn't that bad. I've been broke before.
Bring it on, man. I can handle that. That's nothing. That I can handle. And he took his ego out of it. He learned, man, I wish I could remember the name of the guy that did the TED Talk about rejection, where he sought out 100 rejection a day for 100 days. That guy did some crazy stuff. I don't know if you've ever seen that, but no. I mean, he did things like he went up to he knocked on a door in the suburbs. And by the way, I think the guy's Chinese, didn't speak English that well, clearly didn't look like he came from the neighborhood, knocks on a guy's door and says, "Can I play soccer in your backyard?" I mean, that's the most ridiculous thing I ever heard. Can I play soccer in your backyard? What kind of question is that? I mean, he was going out of his way to get rejected.
Yeah.
You know, he was at McDonald's and he said, "I'd like a refill on my burger." What do you mean you want a refill on your burger? I mean, he was going out of his way to get rejected so that he could just desensitize himself to rejection.
Yeah.
And obviously it worked. But Steve doesn't care. I don't want to say he doesn't care, but he certainly isn't letting that stop him. So not only did he learn from you, John, but he took those tools and all the skills that he had inside, all the abilities that he had inside, and went out and maximized it. So hats off to Steve. First and foremost, hats off to Steve, because he took the action, knew that he needed some help. He continues to use you for guidance, continues to call you and, okay, now what do I do? Or now it's probably more like, hey, guess what I did? Which is really tough. And I know that honors you, and I know that makes you feel good. And you know, I think to some extent that ties really in well with the beginning of our conversation, which is this is why you do this. This is exactly why you do and why you are motivated to do it, which brings me to a book.
Hey, and then let me tell you guys, hold on. This is our tech tip, okay? So we had this plan. I got to let everybody know. So we're getting ready to do our tech tips, and our 2 tech tips that we're going to be giving away are a couple books that me and Tom both recommend. And he's going to go ahead and start off with his here, and then I'm going to go ahead and drop mine on you. But just a heads up, guys, if y'all are liking what we're dropping, I mean, go to John and Tom 360. Look it up on iTunes or on Stitcher. We'd love to get a review from you as well. But if you like what I'm dropping and you like what Tom's dropping, jump on there, because we talk about all kinds of subjects. It's very, very interesting. I think you guys will like it.
Yeah, and just so you know, so when we say, you know, we're going to tell you about a couple of books, and I guess, you know, we all talk about reading books. Well, the two of us do that a little differently. You know, I read. I actually read it on paper. I have a highlighter right here at all times by my desk, because I'm always reading stuff that I want to remember. John, on the other hand, probably has a paper-free office filled with books because they're all on his phone or they're all on his computer. So he listens to them. I actually look at them, and we read the same books. It's the same stuff. And so this book that I want to talk about really briefly, Start with Why. When you've got your why down, when you know why you're doing the work you're doing, and by why, I mean much more than, well, I want to make a lot of money. I mean, that's great. And we all want to make a lot of money, and we all expect to. And I believe all of us who really have the drive to do it will. But it's got to be deeper than that. It's got to be, you know, okay, why do you, what does money mean to you? What does it represent? Does it represent freedom? Does it represent an education for your children? Does it represent, you know, buying a wedding ring for your girlfriend? I mean, whatever it means for you, that's great. But you got to focus on that why. Now, and the book's written by Simon Sinek. If you want to get a little taste of Simon Sinek, just Google him. His last name is S-I-N-E-K. Did a great TED Talk a few years ago that I think is one of the most highly rated TED Talks of all time. Simon Sinek, Start with Why. When you read that book and when you take that book into your heart, game changer. Absolute game changer, along with the book John's about to tell you.
And you know what? I think I switched my book on you, Tom. So I'm going to go ahead and talk about the Daymond John, The Power of Broke, okay? Which Tom's actually read it as well. I got him on it. So you guys might know Daymond John. He's a Shark Tank guy, the owner of Fubu and bunch of other ventures and things like that. But ultimately, the reason why I like this guy's book is because it pulls the biggest excuse. I mean, it just pulls the cord on the biggest excuse people have for making moves and doing things, and that's that you need to have money to back you. And if you read that book, it will pull the cord on that excuse. And I love that because everybody thinks, well, boy, I'd do that if I had the money, or I'd do that. Well, unfortunately, throwing money at things doesn't help the problem. I mean, it can get you going, but it can even put you in a worse situation. I mean, there's just so many different stories of companies that came up with the broke strategy. And I came up with the broke strategy. I mean, I remember when I met my wife, I talked about this before. I didn't have enough money to buy a bus pass. And and I was blessed with that angel of a woman. You know what I mean? I had a little bit of charm on me, but that's about it.
You must have had a lot of charm. I know her. I can't believe you got her at that stage.
I had a lot of charm. But that's the thing. I mean, it's just when you bring up your business in more of a rich grassroots type way, I mean, it's just so much stronger. I mean, you're building something with a strong foundation. If you just throw money at something, then you're going to build something that's weak and could possibly break. It has no culture. It's not rich.
Well, here's the deal, John. You're talking about, first of all, if you're going to use that, and I'm going to call it a really lame excuse, because if you've got a brilliant idea, you don't need money. You'll find the money. So if you're going to let that excuse stop you, you might as well just give up now, because that excuse does not work. I mean, there might be some excuses that do. That just isn't one of them, because money. If you've got a brilliant idea, if you have the answer to some group's problem, you will find the money. It will come to you, because this problem you're solving is so important in a group of people's lives. You will fund your business. And Damon John talks about it. So to me, that the book's called The Power of Broke, and he talks about that. I see it as an asset, and I know John sees it as an asset. And I'm all for money. And if you got a ton of it, great, use it wisely. But so often people, and I can speak from experience, there have been times when I had a lot of money when I say a lot of money, I mean a lot of money to fund an idea. And you know what? I didn't do it as well as if I'd been broke, because I wasn't paying attention. I just thought, yeah, I'll try this. And pretty soon now I didn't have enough money. I had to figure out different way to start a business, because I had blown some of mine thinking, well, you tend to value as you have more of it. Sometimes I could say I did this. Not everybody does it, but I valued it less the more I had. Now, Damon John does a great job of talking about it. By the way, he talks about his own mistakes in that area, like when he had a lot of money, how he lost some because he didn't value it as much. The power of growth. That is such a great place to start from in business.
And that's the cool, because that actually makes people realize something. Yeah, there's a couple books there. Tom's showing them for any of the people. We're going to have a video of this. But, that's just a really, really cool thing to bring up to everybody out there, because that is one of the biggest excuses I think that people, start off with. I can't be successful because I don't have enough money to. And that kind of leads me to my next topic. Me and Tom, we're starting John and Tom 360 with the objection. So our end goal is to find people that have wonderful ideas and partner with them and help them build their business where we can build it together. And another thing that being broke actually makes you look into yourself and say, man, if I don't have nothing of value, then what do I really have to bring to the world? So literally, you find yourself doing what I did, and I started learning things to make myself more valuable so I could bring more value to the world. I could be a more valuable person. I mean,
Amen.
That's what the power of broke did to me. It said, man, I'm broke right now and I need to figure this stuff out. I don't have the money to pay people. So guess what? I got time. I got more time than I have money. So because I got more time than I have money, I can invest in myself. And I'm going to tell you guys right now, if you make an investment in yourself, that is one of the best investments. From Warren Buffett's mouth himself, from Warren Buffett, that is the best investment that you can make, is an investment in yourself, because nobody can take that away from you.
And just to kind of, I want to highlight something you said really quickly, which is this. One of the goals, when you do tune into John and Tom 360, you'll have a chance to really hear what that show's all about and why we're doing it. But I can tell you that, John just talked about us investing in other businesses. That's one of the things that motivates us. So where are we going to find our ideas? We're going to find our ideas from our listeners, from our tribe. So hopefully you'll have a chance to go over there as soon as this show's over and listen to John and Tom 360. Hopefully you'll enjoy it. You'll write a nice review of us for us on iTunes. And again, you'll have a chance to go to our website, johnandtom360.com, and ask us a question so that the next show you might be on it.
And we'll also have something for you over there. We can't decide what it is yet. It's me and Tom, battling over who's going to put what piece of content where. But that's all good. We're going to have something over there for you. You're going to be able to download, watch. We're just going to have something really cool on johnandtom360.com. So hope you guys get a chance to get over there and check it out.
And before we sign off, I just want to thank you for having me on this show, and thank Mike and Vince and everybody for having me here and allowing me to take their place while they're out of town. I'm not even sure what they're doing, but I hope they're having fun because I had a lot of fun tonight.
Yeah, and that's it. Everybody wanted to shut down the podcast for a week, and I was like, I was like, nah, you know what? I was like, we're kicking the beginning of the year. I got to give our audience out there a little bit of love, bring them in some Tom Rubens, and get a little business talk going on. Because, guys, I really want you guys to have a successful life, a successful year, and I'm just looking forward to hearing all the stories and everybody that we can help out. I just can't wait to hear that. That's my favorite thing ever. All the dent trainer stories, all the stories of John and Tom 360. That's my why. That's why I do what I do.
Sweet.
So anyhow, guys, you can remember to level up your tools and join the revolution.